Well, hello, everybody. It is so good to see you on such a beautiful Sunday afternoon. Thank you for spending it with us here in this dark theater. But I absolutely am sure that it'll be a tremendous time. So my name's Anisha Sechnani. I have the pleasure of being the program director for the NYU program in drama therapy. For accessibility purposes, I have black hair pulled back, clear white glasses, and a fuzzy green sweater and brown pants. I have a slightly brown complexion, and I'm trying a new foundation today that doesn't totally match, and now it's captured on video. So we're thrilled to welcome you to Drama Therapy as Performance, which are live demonstrations of drama therapy, of current approaches in drama therapy. And today we are really pleased to be able to offer you a demonstration of the CANI method, and that will be co-led by Heidi Landis and Jenny Solomon. And to introduce this method and lead us into this process is our wonderful faculty member, Britton Williams. Dr. Britton Williams.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Britton Williams, she, her. I am a black, full-bodied woman. I am wearing a black dress with a blue scarf. My hair is in locks pulled up, and I'm wearing red glasses for accessibility purposes. It is my great pleasure to be here with you and introduce the CANI model of drama therapy and to share a little bit with you about Creative Alternatives of New York. So with that, in her autobiography, Finding Me, Viola Davis shared, "I became an actor because it's a healing wellspring. Across cultures and generations, theater practices have been engaged to support healing. Today, I will share a brief story about Creative Alternatives of New York, a New York-based organization, and the CANI model of drama therapy. Creative Alternatives of New York, also known as CANI, was first founded in 1969 under the name Imagination Workshop by theater artists Margaret Lodd and Lyle Kessler. Operating out of Mount Sinai Hospital and the Psychiatric Institute of Columbia University, these artists and those that they trained facilitated drama groups on psychiatric units as a supportive component to healing and recovery. Their early vision regarding the impact of this work set the stage for CANI's trajectory. Creative Alternatives of New York was incorporated in 1983. Over time, CANI expanded its reach, partnering with social service agencies, hospitals, and alternative education programs across New York City, Westchester, and Connecticut. Additionally, CANI continued to deepen the blend of theater arts and group psychotherapy, evolving the clinical focus of the model. And while CANI deepened its focus on the clinical, it remained enduringly committed to employing a mix of theater artists and drama therapists. Through the years, CANI supported thousands of children, adolescents, adults, and seniors across numerous populations and settings in hundreds of groups during its 4+ decades. While CANI closed its doors in 2018, the model continues to be practiced and written about by those who have been trained in it. The CANI model has undergone several evolutions and has been informed by theorists, practitioners, and approaches across contexts. This includes, but is not limited to, Louis Armont's group therapy model, drama therapy approaches and teachings of Renee Amuna, Antonia Garcia, and Robert Landy, and trauma-informed practices, frameworks, and teachings of Sandra Bloom and Judith Herman. The organization shifted to a trauma-informed drama therapy model in 2010, and this shift was in recognition of the profound, pervasive, and enduring impact that trauma has had on individuals and communities. The 1995 to 97 ACE study conducted by the CDC was a key illuminator of the overwhelming prevalence and impact of trauma in society. Viola Davis, who shared her complex experiences of childhood trauma in her autobiography, wrote, the big aha moment is that trauma never goes away. Wounds untreated, as we know, fester, grow, and spread. This is true of emotional wounds too. And in all of her wisdom, the late Cicely Tyson said, healing, as I see it, is not the absence of pain. Rather, it is a gradual reduction in the ache. The lessening of that hurt eventually makes room for fond memories to surface. And in conversation with this, Viola Davis shared, my biggest discovery was that you can literally recreate your life. You can redefine it. At its core, the Canny model fosters spaces where people can creatively reshape the narratives that they ascribe to their past, present, and future. It expands one's capacity to imagine new possibilities. Heidi Landis, former Canny clinical and training director, noted, those who practice the model understand that trauma affects clients, but also can have a direct and or collateral impact affecting family, community members, and therapists. The model is grounded by 3 guiding principles: metaphor as therapeutic tool, creativity as health, and group as therapeutic agent. Engaging metaphor as a therapeutic tool allows for a safe space, a safe way for people to get close to difficult topics and experiences without feeling overwhelmed by them. From a drama therapy perspective, this allows for aesthetic distance, which Landy has articulated as a point midway between the 2 extremes of overdistance and underdistance. It is, he says, a balance of feeling and thought, and that balance allows for insight and meaning to take place. Recognizing creativity as health asserts that one's capacity for and access to their creativity facilitates well-being. Jacob Moreno, the founder of Psychodrama, recognized spontaneity, which is inextricably intertwined with creativity, as an indicator of health, and articulated spontaneity as a new response to an old situation or an adequate response to a new situation. Sandra Bloom, a leading trauma scholar, former Canny board member, and creator of the Sanctuary model, which is a trauma-informed organizational approach, said that recovering from traumatic experience, illness, or affliction requires a reworking of the soul, of time, of space, of identity, of meaning, and most important, it requires the revivification of the imaginative space between the here and now and then. Or, as Bessel van der Kolk said, imagination gives us the opportunity to envision new possibilities. Engaging group as therapeutic agent allows opportunities for people to practice or rehearse new possibilities. Judith Herman, a leading trauma scholar, explained, trauma isolates, the group recreates a sense of belonging. Trauma shames and stigmatizes, the group bears witness and affirms. Therefore, she argues, recovery can only take place within the context of relationships. It cannot occur in isolation. The Canny model takes up this charge and centers group in the process of healing. And for those who have been hurt in relationship, the group process becomes a reparative opportunity to heal in relationship. Relationship is foundational to the Canny model across all contexts, and this is evidenced by the intentional practice of co-facilitation, which you will witness today. The Canny model includes 9 stages of group process, which serves as a guidepost for each group. The Canny group journey requires that co-facilitators meet group members where they are, which means that not every group will hit every stage. Stage 1 is the planning stage, and this takes place before the group even begins. During this time, co-facilitators consider the needs, dynamics, and focal points of the group. And as noted by Meredith Dean, former Canny program director, another critical element is the facilitators check in about where they are prior to the session and ask for what they need from the co-facilitation. Stage 2 is the check-in, and the check-in operates as a time for the co-facilitators to assess the temperature of the group and serves to help participants connect and relate through shared ritual. Stage 3 is warm-up, and this serves to further assess where the group is and is a space where group member connections are fostered and deepened through a range of theater games, authentic movement practices, icebreaker exercises, and other creative prompts. Stage 4 is where we build the drama, and the Canny approach offers prompts and exercises to support participants in moving into the co-creation of a drama. No one person builds the drama, rather all group members are encouraged to contribute to its design. This supports engagement and investment while also providing aesthetic distance and centering the group as therapeutic agent. Building a drama includes developing characters and establishing relationships. In stage 5, we move into enactment. In the enactment phase, co-facilitators support group members in taking on and acting out roles or speaking to and through characters in the story. A central goal of the enactment phase is forming, deepening, reimagining, and repairing relationships in action. Stage 6, de-rolling. On the other side of the enactment, co-facilitators lead the players in a de-rolling process where the central focus is to help participants transition out of the realm of dramatic reality into the here and now in order to process the experience from the self, not the character. Stage 7, we move into reflection, where facilitators guide a space for group members to consider their connections to the story, the characters, and narratives explored in the enactment. And then stage 8 is the closure, which serves as a transition from the group space to wherever the participants may be headed next. Central to this process is the reminder that what lived and breathed in the group travels in some way with each person, and also that they have permission to leave behind that which feels too much because the group space can hold it. And the final stage is stage 9, and this is processing, which happens after the group, where the co-facilitators reflect on the session. They note the emergent themes and dynamics and consider supportive next steps for the group while also processing their co-facilitation. The impact of this scaffolding was clearly highlighted for me when a new group member joined a session at a therapeutic school where I co-led Canny groups. While she was new to the school, she was not new to Canny, and she'd experienced the model at another site. So on this particular day, though new to the school, she says, "I know Canny, I know what this group is all about," and she outlined the group process for new members. Her confidence in this sharing struck me. She felt it seemed a sense of familiarity and belonging, and it allowed her to beautifully blend into this new group of folks. The Canny model supports people across the age span to, as Landis said, expand their sense of self, imagine new life possibilities, and build social and emotional tools that they need to thrive. The trauma-informed method was disseminated beyond the drama therapy community through a 3-year learning collaborative in which Canny facilitators trained social workers, mental health counselors, and agencies in the model. It was also brought to a community and tribal leaders in Guluo, Uganda, to use as a tool in addressing their community's needs and also their own processing. But the true testament of the power of the Canny model lives in the testimonies of those who have participated in Canny groups and or witnessed their impact over the course of Canny's 40-plus year history. I once asked group members what they wanted people to know about Canny, and one person shared, "At Canny, you can be anyone you want to be." This quote has traveled with me because it reflects a truth that I, along other Canny participants, facilitators, and supportive staff members, have long witnessed. An example of this was a Canny adolescent group co-facilitated in a courthouse with participants who were mandated for drama therapy treatment. On the first day of the group, participants facilitated a scene where a young person who had faced many obstacles achieved the accomplishment of obtaining their GED. Months later, the person who played that role burst through the door at the start of the group and exclaimed, "Guess what, everybody? I got my GED." The group erupted in celebration, co-facilitators included, as the participant reflected on their rehearsal of that moment in the Canny group. What is rehearsed in the group process is practiced in one's life. If you can play the role, it lives within. Before I close, I would be remiss not to acknowledge the many minds, hearts, and hands that have molded and influenced the Canny creation. There have been many board members, facilitators, support staff, and Canny participants who have molded the model you are about to witness. Canny was known and even sought out for its expertise in working with resistance and within spaces where group members were mandated for treatment. The group you will witness today has chosen to be here. The performers and presenters consist of former Canny employees and/or interns. They hold among them a range of relationships that traverse the span of Canny's time. The group you will witness is centered in the present moment and will use their current lived experiences as fodder for the demonstration. So let us welcome this group who will explore the theme, this present moment, through the Canny model of drama therapy. Thank you.
Britton. So before we start our demonstration, we want to introduce ourselves to you. You want to start?
Hi, I'm Sophia Marrero. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am a drama therapist. Today I will be a group participant for accessibility purposes. I am a 5-foot white redheaded woman. I am wearing a purple gray dress with a black sweater, tights, and brown boots.
My name is Yi Yang, pronouns she, her, hers. I'm an Asian female with long black hair. I'm wearing black jumpsuit, black shirt with green stripes, and also golden glasses. I am a drama therapist and a psychomotrician, and here I'm a participant. Thank you.
My name is Heidi Landis. I use she, her pronouns. I am a drama therapist and a psychodramatist. For purposes of accessibility, I have red, frizzy, trying to be, hoping it's a little bit more curly hair today, and I am always wearing black.
It's true. I'm Meredith Dean. I use she, her pronouns. I am a drama therapist. Today I will be playing a participant. I am a 5'8" white woman with kind of light brown hair that has gray, if the camera wants to zoom in on that. And I'm wearing mostly black with some pink and navy Jordans that are way too cool for me.
I'm Jennifer Richards, she, her, hers. I am a drama therapist. I'll be a participant today in this group. I am a black female with a pear shape, ample pear shape. I have a burgundy shirt on, jeans, black sneakers. My hair is up in a curly kind of ponytail with black with purple highlights. Yeah. I think that's it.
Hi, I'm Jenny Solomon. I will be co-leading today with Heidi. I go by she, her pronouns. I'm a clinical social worker. I am a white woman, 5'6", longish brown hair, wearing gray pants, white sneakers, and a purplish ensemble on top.
Hi, I'm Sammy Disador, she, her, hers. I am a drama therapist for accessibility purposes. I am a white woman, 5'3". I have wavy dark brown hair and a blue sweater and bright blue nails for my daughter.
Hi, everyone. I'm Carrie Watt, she, her pronouns. I am a white woman with short brown hair, and I'm currently pregnant. I'm wearing a black jumpsuit. I will be playing a group participant today, and I'm a drama therapist as well.
So we're going to transition into running a group and moving through the stages to the best of our ability today. We'll see what happens. We'll see.
All right, check in. Nope. All right.
Okay.
How you doing?
I am doing okay. Feeling a little bit nervous.
Yeah.
But thinking about our rehearsal that we had last week, actually, and thinking about some of the themes that are coming up.
Yeah.
And sort of just toggling between like, okay, we're doing this thing today. You and I haven't co-led in a really long time together.
So exciting.
Many years. And
we'll see what comes up, if anything lingers from last week or not.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just going to be in the moment, and we're going to work together
All right.
as best we can.
Yes, and what I want to say is, as you know, sometimes I get very excited about things and can sometimes step on people's toes when we're co-leading, so feel free to just slow me down,
Totally.
especially when I'm a little bit nervous.
Absolutely,
So.
and you do your beautiful thing, Heidi.
All right.
Okay,
Okay.
let's go.
Hi, everybody.
Oh, hey, everyone.
So we are so glad that you guys agreed to do this with us today, and it feels really special to have a group of all of us work together or at different times at Canny over the years. And so what an incredible thing for us to come together and to have a group. So we'll see what happens. We don't really know what's going to happen today, so we will see what is. And so maybe, Jenny, you want to lead us in a check-in?
Sure. So let's all just check in before we stand up. How about just check in where you are right now? We want to be in the here and now. We want to honor that. 3 words to describe how you're feeling right now in this moment. And whoever would like to begin and feels inspired, go for it.
Joyful, anxious, and excited.
Great, and invite somebody to go next.
I'm going to send it to Meredith.
Thanks, Carrie. I feel rooted and grateful and nervous.
Yeah. Who do you want to hear from?
I am going to pass it over to Sophia.
I feel butterflies, excited, and playful. And I'm going to pass it to Sammy.
I feel anxious. Yeah. I feel sentimental.
Yeah.
And playful. E.
I feel warm, both outside and inside. Also grateful. And melancholy, is that a word like that?
What word?
Melancholy.
Melancholy? Melancholy?
Yeah, melancholy.
Melancholy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Who do you want to hear from?
Who has anyone? Jenny?
The two Jennifer.
Okay.
Jenny?
I feel little teeny bit jittery. I feel very present. And I feel excited. Jen?
I feel nostalgic. I feel nervous. And I am hopeful. Oh, Heidi, sorry.
How do I feel today? I feel nervous, excited, and curious about what's going to happen. But I am curious about the fact that almost all of us, not all of us, but almost all of us talked about our nervousness today. So, yeah. You didn't say nervousness, but you are feeling it too.
Yeah. If I am allowed to say the fourth word.
I will allow it right now, yes.
That's like for real.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we really.
Yeah. So that's just here. And maybe that's going to be what our group is about today in some ways, but also we're going to warm up a little bit. And so maybe we can work with that a little bit. And so we know that our stories are all held in our bodies. And we're going to begin to kind of play with that and see what happens. And maybe our nervousness will get more, or maybe it will be less, but you're going to have to tell us. All right? So do me a favor, just put your feet flat on the ground for a second. And just take a deep breath in and let it out. Good. And just kind of feel your feet on the floor for a second, because even with our nervousness, the floor is not going anywhere. It's going to support us to the best of our ability here. And just kind of feel your feet on the floor and feel the floor just sort of being like, yeah, I got you today. I got you. Good. And take one more deep breath in. How do we feel about standing up? Do we do it? All right, let's stand up. Okay, good. And just take a little moment and do a little body scan from the top of your head to the bottom of your toes. And just kind of notice what's happening in your body. And we're going to take a little stretch. But I really want you to be intentional about what you're stretching. Not just like, we always do this stretch or we always roll our shoulders, but like, what does your body really, really need right now? Because remember, our stories are held in the body. Right. So maybe notice where your nervousness is in your body right now and do something for that part of your body. Right? Mine is in my shoulders, so I am going to kind of roll it, but just notice what's good for you. And if group members out there want to do that too, go for it. And just move and notice any feelings or sensations or thoughts that are coming to mind as you move. And if there are any that anybody wants to speak, go ahead and do it. And if not, that's okay.
So it's okay to make a little sound.
And do me a favor, everybody just roll your shoulders back a little bit. And if it doesn't feel good, don't do it. And I really mean that. A lot of people say, do you really mean that? And I do really mean that. If it doesn't feel good, don't do it.
Yeah.
All right? And roll them forward, because you know your body's better than anybody else. And bring your shoulders up to your ears and drop them down. Good, don't forget to breathe. Bring them up to your ears and drop them down. One up, one down. And switch, and switch. And switch. Let that come into your whole body. And if there's a sound that needs to come out while you're that nervousness. All right. There there we go. That is a big pile of nervousness right there, right? Can we just imagine it just like sinking down into the floor a little bit so we can let it go? If you want it, it'll be there. But, let it like sink down. So, Jenny asked you guys to check in before with some 3 words. So I want you to check in, like, how are you doing right now? Are you still really nervous? Are other things shifted or changed? And we're going to do what we always do. We're going to check in with the sound and movement, okay? And we're going to repeat it back to you so you can see it too. Is there any? Jenny, will you start? Sure. Sound and movement for us. Which way around the circle you want to go?
This way.
Sammy.
Badang, badang, badang.
Badang, badang, badang. Ha! Ha! Amazing. So, question for you. What do you notice that's here with us that maybe we didn't say in our 3 words? What do you notice?
Definitely felt like something shifted a little bit. So,
Yeah.
what is that?
Yeah, what shifted?
Energy?
Okay. So more energy or less energy?
More.
More energy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Lightness.
Yeah.
A lightness.
Lightness.
Yeah.
Silly.
Yeah.
Some silliness. So we're allowing some silliness to enter into the nervousness a little bit. Is all the nervousness gone?
No.
Okay.
No, because I'm noticing with the nervousness that it's just feeling more connected.
Yeah.
Like we're a group having this.
Yeah.
So we're holding it together.
So So we're holding. What are we holding together?
Like the shared feelings.
Shared.
Yeah, like we're holding it all.
You're holding it all.
Yeah.
Can everybody just hold it all for a second? and just kind of, woo. What does it feel like to hold it all right now?
That one of it
Very
feels
heavy.
like-
It feels heavy?
No, it feels heavier.
Oh God. Well, Meredith, what are you holding right now?
I feel like I'm holding some muck.
Muck.
Like, and as a feeling, I feel like that would just be like, nasty, like unspoken gunk.
Unspoken muck. Who else has? Wait, don't drop your stuff. Don't drop it. But who else has muck? Like raise a shoulder if you have muck also. Right? Just so you know, you're not the only one with muck. Here,
Carrie.
Yeah, all the muck. Carrie's got muck. Carrie, what with your muck? What else do you have?
Yeah. I also have some some air here.
Some
I have
air?
some air. Mucky air.
Some mucky air.
Yeah.
Some mucky air. Anybody else have? Oh, is it smog?
Smug.
Oh God. Smuck. Oh, smuck. Sorry, I said smog. Smuck. It's smuck. Does anybody else have smuck? Or are you now holding Carrie's smuck? You have your own smuck.
Nobody else. Sorry.
Nobody else. But we're all holding it with you. Right? We're holding your smuck. Anything else that somebody has that they want to tell us what they've got?
I feel like this thing that if I could use it, if I could just have a machine to make it feel like use it for energy, use it for good. Like it's
So you want
like
it to be
it's-
useful.
Yes,
feeling
like if I could
muck,
just use
smuck.
this energy in the
Yeah.
right way,
Yep.
I could use it to do something with.
Yeah. So if smuck could be transformed,
Yes.
what would it be transformed into for you?
Power, energy, love.
I feel that.
Wow. Yeah? All right, so I want you to do me a favor, and maybe everybody can do this. Can we hold power, energy, and love in one hand? And can we hold smuck in the other? Smuck and muck? Is that okay? Are you okay with smuck?
I like smuck.
Okay. And just notice, in this moment right now, as you hold power and smuck, what's it feel like?
Just the duality.
Yeah. The duality of smuck and power. Yeah.
And energy and love.
And energy and love. That's right. Thank you. Energy, love, and power in this hand.
Power feels like it's holding itself up, where smuck is, it needs more support.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's maybe heavier.
Yeah.
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 Well,
No?
the power is, it's weighty,
Okay.
but it can support itself a little bit more.
Ah.
It's maybe the same weight, but this one just needs a little more help.
So are you saying power is defying gravity? Defying gravity?
I was thinking they have the same weight for me, but power feels billowy and muck feels sticky.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wonder if we can play with power and smuck today a little bit. What do we think? Feel like a place to live in this moment. I notice also everybody is just kind of like swaying all over. And so just kind of notice what is that in your body right now. If that sway could speak, Meredith? If that sway could speak, what would it say?
There's ease between.
There's ease between the smuck and
Between the smuck, the power, the love, and the...
I forgot myself.
Okay,
energy.
That's it.
Energy. Sammy, what does your sway say?
Boing, boing, boing.
Yeah, if you want to try it out, yeah. Boing, boing, boing. Yeah. Anybody else want to share what their sway is saying?
It's trying to keep balance.
Yeah.
It's just keeping me balanced.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not one way too much.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's really important, I think, as we explore these things, to remember that we also have some balance in here. So, exploring smuck, I have no idea what that will be, right? But I want you to remember, as you're swaying, the floor is still beneath you, right?
Yeah.
So that we can sort of keep that in there, yeah? All right, so power, love, energy. Take a look at it. Smuck. Take a look at it. All right.
And you could also notice how you feel towards these two things when you're looking at them. Just kind of notice it.
Yeah. Do me a favor, just set them down in front of you for a second. Yeah, good. And just shake out if you feel like there's any stuck on you that you want to, especially the smuck, you might want to keep a little power. But does this feel like a good theme we want to explore a little bit today?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So have a seat for a second if you want. So let's think for a second. We're going to create a list here, okay? Let's create a list of times when people feel really powerful. When are times that people feel really powerful?
And I just want to say, I'm going to just write this down today, and just so you know, this is not going anywhere. This is just for us. If anyone wants to look at it, they're welcome to. But I'm just going to take some notes, because I don't always remember things. So we can use it.
We forget sometimes. We're getting old. It's been a long time. So what are some situations where people feel really powerful? People in general. Or, I suppose, animals too. Anybody. Anybody that feels powerful. Just throw out some ideas.
Someone in a leadership role,
Someone
an
in a-
elected official, perhaps.
Let's be specific. An elected official. Yes. What do you say?
Like when I work out.
When you work out.
Yeah.
Yes. So we're going to bring that back a little bit, right? So it's not our stories, because we're going to create a collective story. So what kind of person do you think is it like a marathon runner? Is it like a weightlifter? Like what's your vision of a worker outer who has a lot of power?
Maybe like a boxer.
A boxer.
Yeah.
A boxer.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm thinking of being pregnant. Being very powerful.
A pregnant person might feel powerful.
They might.
We've had a number of pregnant people in this group. Did you feel powerful?
Sometimes.
Sometimes?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Yeah, okay.
Anything else come to mind? Anyone who's
Being creative.
Being creative.
Sculptor.
A sculptor. I
Yeah.
love it. A sculptor. Okay.
Student that gets a good grade.
Oh, a student who gets a good grade.
Like directing a play.
All right. So I imagine, anybody have any other final things that need to go on this list?
I just want to add kind of the everyday person. Like the everyday person who gets through a day and is it's challenging to just get up and get out the door and get to where you're going and do whatever you're going to do and then get back to where you need to go and just at the end of the day has that sense of power and accomplishment. I want to throw that out.
Yeah. Okay. Jenny, can you read those back to us?
Absolutely. So, people who might feel powerful and have some power, an elected official, someone who feels strong physically like a boxer, a pregnant person, a sculptor, a student who's gotten good grades, a director, an everyday person who just got through the day and got everything done.
Anything anybody wants to add to that list? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to choose one. So what do we feel, let's start with you. What do you feel, which of that list, what do you feel drawn to? And if you need them read again, Jenny will read them again.
Can you read them again, please?
Absolutely. We have an elected official, someone who's maybe a boxer, a pregnant person, a sculptor, a student who got good grades, a director, or an everyday person who just got through the day.
An everyday person that just got through the day.
An everyday person that you feel drawn to. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you, Carrie?
A boxer?
Okay. Anybody else have any strong feelings about one
Pregnant person?
A pregnant person. All right. So how are we going to decide? We need to decide. Or is there a way that all these three become one?
The boxer who just got through the day.
Pregnant box.
Pregnant boxer.
A pregnant boxer just got through the day. Just got through the day. Absolutely. All right. Well,
Cool.
that's where we're going to start. A pregnant boxer got through the day. Because I got to tell you, pregnant boxers, like at the end of the day, they definitely feel, in my experience.
Sure. Because they have a little boxer in here too.
Right? Yeah, right.
wow.
All right. So we're going to begin by creating this character, okay? And we're going to do this all together as a group. All right. So we're going to start with a few things, and then we'll find some other ways to create this character. But Sammy, do you want to give this pregnant boxer who just needs to get through the day a name?
Janine.
Janine. Okay. And how old is Janine?
30.
30. Okay. And where does Janine live?
Janine lives in Paris.
Paris.
Is she from Paris or is she
She's Parisian. Absolutely. With a name like Janine. It gotta be.
Okay. And how long has Janine been boxing?
15 years.
15
Wow, so
years.
she was 15 years
yes,
old.
15.
Wow.
Yeah. And how many months pregnant is she?
5 months?
5 months.
Ah.
5 months. All right.
4 or 5?
5.
5 months.
5
Okay,
months
got it.
Okay. So Janine has been boxing for 15 years. Is this and for anybody, is this Janine's job? She a professional boxer?
Yes.
Oh,
She's a
professional.
She's a professional boxer.
I have a question because you said something before about an everyday person. So we know that this everyday person is also a boxer and is also pregnant. Is there anything else that she does that makes it so when she gets through the day, she feels powerful because she got through everything? Is there anything else we need to know about?
Public transportation.
What about it?
She gets through it.
She gets
makes
through
it
public.
through it.
Yeah.
So she's got to commute.
She's got to commute.
Okay.
How many subways or what metros?
The metro.
The metro. How many metros or buses or what does she commute?
One bus, a train, and then one more bus. Yeah.
To the boxing gym
To the boxing gym and then back home.
and then back home. Okay.
I'd like to add that she doesn't drive, which is why she does all this. There's something
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
Janine that she does not drive.
She doesn't drive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Doesn't drive. Okay. All right. So we're going to flesh out Janine a little bit in a particular way, if you don't mind. All right. So understanding that she's Parisian, it's okay if you don't have a French accent. We will imagine. Okay. So on the count of 3, I'm going to ask everybody to change the way they're sitting in their chair to take on your version of the role of Janine right now. You ready? 1, 2, 3. And so we're just going to hear from each of you. I am Janine, and something about you that we don't know yet, okay? But all Janines, I'm going to ask you to really listen. So we're going to build on this character, right? So if somebody says, I'm Janine and I have 3 other children, somebody else can't say I have 5 other children, right? We know that she has 3 other children right now, all right? So let's just start here. So Janine, can you just tell us what do you want us to know about you?
Yeah. I am Janine, and I really like sparkly pink.
Okay.
My name's Janine. My back hurts.
Yeah. Yeah.
I couldn't hear that. I'm sorry.
My back hurts. Yeah.
My name's Janine. I was taking some illicit, kind of like power, like some drugs to help me with the boxing. But now that I'm pregnant, I can't do that.
Oh.
And so I'm worried about my performance.
I see. Got it. Did people know about these performance-enhancing
Yes,
things?
thank you, performance enhancing drugs.
Okay.
Yes, my trainer
Mm-hmm.
and my partner both knew, because I can't keep secrets
Got it.
from everybody.
Janine?
I'm Janine, and I don't know if I want to have this baby.
Ambivalent about the baby. And I'm Janine, and I'm feeling really worried that my career might be over.
I am Janine, and this is my first pregnancy.
Thank you, Janine.
I am Janine, and I don't know how I'm going to make rent this month.
Okay. So, take a breath, everybody. Let it out. Shake it out a little bit. Come back to being you. So, even though this is a powerful person, we're already finding the smuck in this, right? So, what did you hear? What's some of the smuck that Janine is dealing with?
Vulnerability.
Vulnerability. What else would you hear?
Doubts.
Doubts.
Career insecurity?
Yeah.
Yeah, role ambivalence,
Yeah.
right? Like not wanting to, not sure you want to have the baby.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah. So there is already, right? Already it's like here, present in this character, right? So if we were to think about this as a story, where should this story start? Is there someone particular that she might talk to about what's going on in her life? Who's important to Janine?
For some reason, I keep thinking about her grandmother.
Her
I don't know
grandmother.
why, but yeah, her
Yeah,
grandmother.
what do we think? Are you okay with the grandmother? Okay. And there might be a couple people who are important to Janine, but her grandmother, yeah? You said you'd love it.
Yeah.
All right, the grandmother. Okay, so tell us, what's her grandmother's name?
Well, grandmère, but also
Yes, sorry, yes. All right, grandmère.
also Penelope.
Penelope.
Yeah.
And what does Janine call her grandma?
P.
P. Okay, yeah. And how old is Penelope?
80.
80?
80.
8? Okay. Yeah. And she also live in Paris? Yes.
Yes, she does. A couple doors down.
A couple doors down, so
Yeah.
they live close. What's their relationship like?
It's a real kind of wise elder to kind of like mentee but beloved granddaughter relationship, and especially poignant because Janine was her first grandchild.
Yeah.
They have a special bond.
Special bond. What does her grandmother think about the fact that she's pregnant?
Excited
She's excited.
because she's going to be a great grandmother,
Yeah.
first great grandson.
Yeah.
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 But she's also worried about her little Jenny.
What is she most worried about?
Her career and being a single mother, stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we hadn't defined that yet, so we know Janine is a single mom.
Could
We
Mm-hmm.
just found that out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there we go.
Important.
Okay. Anything else, Sophia, that you think we need to know about the grandmother?
Yeah, Penelope was a stay-at-home mom, so she's worried that Janine works too much. How is she going to actually be home, be present for this baby?
Okay. All right. I'm sorry. Didn't the partner also know that she was taking the performance enhancement?
Oh, excellent, Sammy.
Yeah.
All right.
Perhaps they're not together.
Perhaps they're not. Yeah. How can we make it work? Let's make it work. So are they not together anymore? What do you think?
No, they're not together.
All right.
Okay.
So, we know that we have these two characters right now, and there's probably many, many more characters, right? So we're going to do a piece of this today, and we might finish this story next week. Sometimes, as you know, in our group, sometimes we stay in stories for months and months and months, right? So we'll see where we get today. But I wonder if there's somebody who would like to take on the role of Penelope today. Would anyone take on the role of Penelope?
I want to tell.
Okay. All right, Penelope. So, Penelope, we're going to enroll you in a second. But before we do, so we know that we're going to start this scene. Let me make sure this is correct. We're going to start this scene with a conversation with her grandmother. Okay? Where do you want this scene to take place?
I think in Penelope's kitchen.
In Penelope's kitchen. All right. So, will you stand up with
Yes,
me
of
for a
course.
second? All right. So, come here for 1 second. We're in your grandmother's kitchen.
Or I'm.
Oh, you're Penelope.
Yeah.
Sorry. All right. Yeah. So you're in your kitchen.
Yes.
So Penelope, can you tell me what's in front of you?
Yes, a very lovely like tray of tea sandwiches.
Uh-huh.
And
Did you have those made especially?
I
for
did.
your
I did. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It's a little British, but also Parisian. Yes. And also like a lovely teapot and some very lovely china.
Okay.
And then also the stove is over here.
Okay.
And also there's somewhere to sit.
There's somewhere to sit. So where is there a table? and
Yes,
chairs?
there's a little table.
Okay.
Yes.
So, and you need some chairs?
I do.
All right. So get a couple chairs here.
I can put mine. And a little table in the middle. Do we need the table or no?
I think we can imagine.
Okay.
I don't know if
Okay.
Janine might feel differently.
Janine might feel differently,
Yeah.
but we'll see.
We shall ask her.
So, is there somebody who would like to play the part of Janine today? What do you think?
And if you're hesitating, just check in. Like, what's up? And it's okay if you don't want to do it.
I'll play Janine.
All right.
All right, Janine. And I want to remind you that we're going to have a lot of help.
Great.
And we can switch out roles if we need to at some point, and we might bring in a whole bunch of other roles. Who knows what we're going to need right now, right? So my question for the two of you and or the group is, how did you all decide to have this conversation? Who called who? So we know Penelope is worried, but we know that you've got a lot of...
I feel like it's a weekly thing.
Yeah.
Like we do this.
All right. This is the weekly thing.
Yeah.
We check in every week.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to ask the two of you to change the way you're sitting in your chair to make sure that you are taking on the role of Janine and Penelope. I'm going to count to 3. You ready? 1, 2, 3. Make sure something in your body is different. So we are going to imagine that this is your weekly time to get together, right? You've got some British Parisian sandwiches there to eat. And Janine, I know there's a lot going on in your life right now. How are you feeling about this She can't hear you right now. How are you feeling about this conversation today?
I'm feeling like I have to be on guard a little bit because I know she's really protective of me, and I've been starting to show. She knows I'm having some issues with rent. She knows a whole bunch is going on. I'm doing this by myself, and I feel like she might try to kind of get in there. And I just feel like I got to be tough.
Does anybody know that you are not sure about this baby? Joe? No. So she for sure doesn't know. Okay. And we know she's really excited.
Yeah, she's really excited. I know, she gets worried sometimes, but like, she keeps talking about how it's going to be her first great grandkid.
Yeah.
I know how special our relationship is. So
Yeah. So do you know how you want to start this conversation today, or do you need some help?
I could use some help.
Yeah. So if we were to give Janine a way to start this conversation, what do you all think? What should she say?
Is this the moment where she wants to share something that she hasn't shared yet? Does she want to keep it light? She wants her guard up.
I think she should just jump in.
Yeah.
Say, like, P, I'm scared.
Yeah.
Okay. So we want her to go right for it. Yeah? We need her to go right for it, perhaps, today.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we are going to give her 3, 2, 1 action, and you're just going to jump right in. Yeah? Okay. You ready, everybody? Let's all do it together. 3, 2, 1,
action.
The macaroons are really good.
Oh, good. I know. Well, I got your favorite kind, only pistachio.
I'm going to tell you something.
Okay.
I just want to eat one more first.
Okay, of course, of course. That's probably my little sweet grandbaby. That's
No.
my great grand. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep.
Extra there. I mean, I've been thinking about tea all week. And you know me so well, I can't hide anything from you. I'm really feeling nervous, overwhelmed, like, I don't know if I can do this.
It's okay. Everybody feels that way.
I don't know. I see so many people out there, they look like they know what they're doing. I don't know that, I can't.
When I was first pregnant, many, many moons ago, I had no idea what I was doing. And I figured it out, so don't worry.
Pause. Pause right there. Stay in character. So, those of you all, what do you imagine that Penelope is feeling underneath all this? What might she be feeling? Just throw out some words.
I think she might be feeling a little disappointed that her
Disappointed?
granddaughter is not looking forward to this as much as she is.
Yeah. Any other thoughts?
A little bit uncomfortable about this conversation.
Some uncomfortable with this
Absolutely.
conversation. A little disappointed, a little uncomfortable.
Some feeling like she knows that it wasn't easy for her too, but she's keeping that a secret.
Uh-huh.
Like she's just like, oh, it'll be okay, it's okay, but she knows she had trouble.
She had trouble too. Why doesn't she want her to know?
I don't know. I think just older generations never really spoke about what hurt them.
Yeah.
And what was troubling to them. They always acted like it was okay.
Yeah. So this is something that she just learned.
Yeah.
She just learned we don't speak about that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Chin up, so to
Yeah.
speak, right?
Yeah, maybe a bit of annoyance in there too. Sometimes I think people tend to be like, well, I did this too. It's no big deal. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so in this, how do we imagine that Janine is feeling right now?
Alone.
Alone.
Alone in this feeling.
Yeah. How do you think she's feeling toward her grandmother right now?
Disappointed.
Disappointed.
Yeah. Like the one person that could see me won't see me right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Distance.
Some distance, right? She comes every week to, right? But this idea that like I really need to say something, but I'm not sure if I can. I'm not sure if I feel heard, right?
Yeah.
Maybe also determined. Like she really determined.
Yeah.
She wants to have this conversation.
Okay. All right. So you guys have heard some thoughts. Take them in or not, whatever feels right. Or give a 3, 2, 1 action. Let's go back in the scene and see what happens. Sammy, will you give them a 3, 2, 1 action?
Yeah. 3, 2, 1, action.
So have you thought about decorating the room?
I mean, yes, I have. It's going to have to be my room because I don't have space for another room P.
Right.
You know? Like, I want to do something.
Mm-hmm.
But I really need you right now, P. I believe you when you say it'll be fine for maybe other people. I don't feel like I can do this.
Pause. Here's what I want you to do. I would like everybody for a second to take a look, if you can, at how P is sitting, how Grandma P is sitting. Yeah, go take a look. Okay. Okay. And when you go back to your chair, I want you to sit as P is sitting. I want you to take on the character of P for a second. Okay? So we know now there's all this stuff going on. There might be some things she's hiding. She's not comfortable saying her feelings. And she just got a question from her granddaughter that said, I really need you in this. What is something that P might be thinking or feeling in this time that I didn't let her speak yet, but she hasn't spoken yet? Can we start here?
Sure. Oh, crap. Or merde.
What she might be thinking?
Oh, God, why don't you figure this out for yourself?
Yeah.
Let me just smile, though.
Let me just smile, yeah.
You can move in with me.
She's exactly the same as her mother.
Oh.
When have I ever not been there for you?
So P, take all of that in, and I know, here, I'm going to come talk to you for a second, P. She can't hear you for a second, okay? We're just going to put that magic screen down for a second. So I know that you are not good at speaking your feelings, right? There's just a bunch of them here, and some of them are more feeling-y than others. But I want you to see if you might give a try saying one of these things to her, if you want, if you feel like it's okay.
Yeah.
Before you go into that, what are you feeling toward your granddaughter right now that you just heard that?
So much love.
So much love. Maybe she needs to hear that. What do you think? Yeah? Okay. So let's see what happens. We'll give her a 3, 2, 1 action.
1, 2, 3, action. Or it's 3, 2, 1,
3, 2, 1 action. 3, 2, 1, yeah. We can support you. Ready?
Yes.
3, 2, 1 action.
Okay. To start with, Janine, I love you so much. And I remember how scared your mother was when she was pregnant with you. And I remember telling her it didn't matter and that it was fine and she'd be okay. And that's not what she needed to hear. It's scary.
It's really scary.
It's really scary.
I didn't know Mom was scary.
So scared. So scared. And we didn't really talk about it then. We didn't talk about being scared. You were just supposed to be wonderful and maternal right away.
Can I pause?
Yeah.
Sorry, can I pause you for 1 second?
Of course.
So Janine came into this conversation with a whole lot of feelings, and it looks like P just did a little pivot. I could be wrong. And I'm just wondering if we could hear from Janine for a second what it is that you're thinking or feeling right now, even if you're not going to say it.
Honestly, I'm feeling like now I could do anything because I'm feeling seen.
Ah, so you're
And
feeling
loved.
seen and loved. Yeah, and that just happened in this moment.
And I still don't know about this baby and doing all that, but I do, like that just really came right into my core.
Yeah, and I wonder if the group right now could add a little sound effect as we go back into the scene. And as soon as we say 3, 2, 1, action, can we all make that sound that we just heard Meredith make, that and then she's going to go back into the scene. Ready? 3, 2, 1, action.
Pete, I always knew I was close with you. Like I could tell you anything, and it was hard to come and tell you this today because you know I like to be tough,
I know.
and I am tough.
You're so tough.
But I don't feel so tough as this baby keeps getting bigger. I feel a lot of things.
I know.
And now I feel closer to you than I thought I could.
We can do this together.
I want you to take a pause for a second. Beautiful work. I want everybody else to think about in this moment, because there's definitely some connection here, but knowing everything we know about these two characters, in this moment, I want you to choose the character that you feel most identified with, and I want you to go stand behind them for a moment. Go stand behind the character in this moment. If you did it tomorrow, it would be different. But today, right now, go stand behind the character that you feel most identified with. Yeah, okay. And so those of you who are behind them, I want you to think about the feelings that might be going on and the reasons why you yourself are identified with this character. And I'm going to count down 5 to 1. And when I get to 1, I want you to create a sculpture. It can be individual but together with the two of you that shows us how you're feeling toward this character right now, or the feelings that you have towards this, the reason that you chose this character. You ready? I'll count down 5 to 1. Ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And Penelope and Janine, I just want you to just take a little glance behind you at the folks that are that literally have your back right now. And just sort of notice, what do you see? Janine, what do you see behind you?
Strength
Strength.
and power.
Yeah. P, what do you see behind you?
Reaching out and fear.
Yeah. Both those things. Okay. So I want you to just keep, you can relax if you want, but keep the spirit of that behind you. We're going to kind of go back into this scene, and we're going to find a way for this scene today to come to an end. I think there's a lot more here. But if, as you're playing this out, if you need any help at any time, you can pause the scene and reach behind and ask for some help for these people who get you today, okay? But we're going to find a way for today. And remember, one of the things that we know in this group is that we don't necessarily have to tie things up in a pretty pink bow, right? Because we've got next week. Or perhaps this is just where it needs to end today, okay? A little time. But I'm going to give you a 3, 2, 1 action. And let's see what happens, sort of taking in all of this. You ready? 3, 2, 1, action.
Well, now I'm ready for another macaroon.
How about a sandwich with some cucumbers that have some yeah.
Bring it.
There, have that.
Thanks, P.
Of course. This doesn't go away with that. This just gets bigger.
And what if there is no this?
Whatever it is, Janine, I love you.
Love you too, P. Thank you so much.
See, I think that's the end today.
Yeah.
Scene, yeah.
And as we end, I wonder, since this is such a beautiful tableau, if we could just give this a name. If you were to title the end of this scene as the last frame of our movie today, what would you call it? What would you call it, E?
Generation?
Generation.
That's what I was going to say.
You can say that also. Say it again.
Generation.
Great, Jennifer.
Unconditional love.
Unconditional love.
Feeling seen.
Feeling seen. Great. Let's all just breathe that in.
Great job, shake it out, you guys. Do me a favor, everybody just come back and stand up in our circle. You can go to any place you want. Let's seat these chairs back. Really beautiful work. But do me a favor before we share. Everybody put a hand on top of your head. Because everybody played a part. Everybody played multiple parts at different times. So really unzip your costume. Take it off. Make sure, you're going to throw it in the center.
Yeah.
Jenny will do that laundry later. Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah, okay. Good. And shake it off. Make sure you're really back to you. Are you back to you?
Yes.
You feel this floor under your feet right now? Not the Pelly floor? Yeah. This floor is under your feet right now? All right, okay. Shake it off. And have a seat. Beautiful job, everybody.
Wow, that was a lot.
Yeah.
So
So we're going to take a few minutes to share about this. And I want to start with the two of you, and then we're all going to talk about it. But I want to know what is one way. We'll start with P, since you came in first. What is one way that the character of P is similar to you, Carrie, and one way that P is not like you at all?
One way we're similar, I definitely have caretaking tendencies. And one way we're totally different. Well, on the surface, I don't live in Paris, which would be very fabulous. And also, I think I don't know what it's like to have generations after me. It's a very different understanding.
What was it like to play that part today?
It was great.
What was great about it?
It was great to get to step out of being the pregnant person.
Oh.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And getting to witness and hold in
Yeah.
that way. Yeah.
How about you? What's one way that you are similar to Janine and one way that you are not like Janine at all?
So I think that, like Janine, I have that tendency to play tough first to protect myself, but like soft, mushy. And unlike Janine, I am not pregnant right now.
Yeah.
And unlike Janine, I also, when I was pregnant, I knew I wanted to have those babies.
Yeah.
That was very clear to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other ways that what was it like to play this character today in this space?
It was refreshing and incredibly moving, because it also felt like our relationship was having some really beautiful kind of like role reversals and deepening.
Yeah. But for other people, what was it like to take on different roles or just to witness? What did you notice about the story? What did you connect to? What did you not connect to?
I could have cried throughout the story today.
Because?
Because my mom is watching my daughter right now. And my daughter is named for my grandmother. We're all very close. So the generation and generation really matters to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. And other people.
It was so nice to see vulnerability. Because even sometimes when families are alone, they still refuse to be vulnerable. And sometimes you just need to hear, I felt that way too.
Yeah.
To move to the next step, to shift out of that feeling.
Yeah.
So it's just really a beautiful thing to see.
You don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but do you feel that, have you had that experience in your family, either your actual family or your created family?
Yeah, with some family.
With some family,
Other
yeah.
families are closed up,
That's
and other
right.
families are very generous with being vulnerable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think in watching this, there was so much about this scene. It was so beautiful that there were so many themes that I think we all could relate to. There was a number of them that probably we could all really relate to, and there was a lot of emotion here, especially thinking about where we all started today, and then we came to this place of love and caring, and it's just interesting.
Where was the power? Where did the power end up in this relationship? Or in this story, this scene?
Motherhood and supporting each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the power is in the truth.
The power was in the truth.
Yeah.
Both two people, her being strong and what her generation told us she should be, were honest with each other, and that's where the power came in.
Yeah.
Yes.
Agreed.
Power came from being vulnerable.
Yeah.
The power of vulnerability, right?
Yeah.
The power of the truth. It's not necessarily the power of the boxer.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
So I always, we have to close soon, but I always, particularly for this group today in this moment, I always think it's really incredible to think about like why we needed to create this story today. Any thoughts about why we needed this story today? That's my belief. You don't have to agree with me, but I believe that the story that needs to be created is always created for us in some ways. And the story we created last week when we were get together for the first time was very different. But why did we need this story today?
Because we have a lot of mother to be.
So there's a truth to the fact that we have a lot of mothers in this group. When we were together before at Canny, there were not a lot of mothers yet. There were some, but so that's new.
There's something to the generations that are on the stage today of Canny.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's right on. I mean, I think
Yeah.
after hearing Britton walk through like where things originated,
Yeah.
and that wisdom that gets passed down, but also like there are things that those of us who weren't part of that generation won't understand and won't know, right? Like, and there's kind of like family secrets.
Yeah.
And what does it mean to come together? And I was struck by, because it's so true that we do not have to end with a pretty bow, and that, like, me, Meredith, didn't want to go there.
Yeah, but we needed to.
But we needed the, like, I love you.
Yep. Yeah.
And that we started with so much nervousness in here, and we were all.
Yeah.
And I wonder if we all needed to be taken care of a little bit, and that scene, to me, felt like very healing.
And we're being witnessed, and it's being filmed for other generations.
Yeah.
Going a little meta, but
So meta, so meta.
so meta.
It is.
But
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we were all a little bit Janine, like needing to hear, like, it's okay to be scared. And then we were all a little bit Penelope being like, and it's okay to change.
Yeah.
Right? It's okay to
Yeah.
embrace what comes next and be different in the generations that will come after us all.
Yeah. I'm really struck by the fact that the hiding of things, or the where your character started, just comes from also generations and generations and generations, right? And so
Yeah.
much of, I think, the work that many of us were doing was helping people to shift that and shift that. So
Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful work, everybody. Gosh. Any other final reflections or thoughts before we close up today? Really good job. Beautiful. Yeah. Everybody stand up. Good. And just take a deep breath in and let it out. Take off anything that you don't want to take with you from this drama. No more smuck. No more smuck. Let go of the smuck. Yeah, let go of the smuck. So let that smuck just go in and let the power of truth and generations and kind of rise up a little bit, and allow that, all the stuff that you do want to take with you, to kind of rise up a little bit, and notice, what do you see? And when you find something, can you reach in and grab it and hold it in your hand and really show me what it looks like? Just really name it for yourself and really show me what it looks like. Don't bullshit me. Really hold it, right? Okay. And I don't know if that has to be out of the video today.
They'll get blue pill.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I think we mentioned this to you before, but when Meredith and I did get to go to Africa at some point to work with this model, we were really touched by the way that people took something and they really were intentional about where it lived in our bodies. And we started today with thinking about stories in our bodies. And so I really want you to think about, or you're going to ask you to name what you have in your hand. And I want you to be super intentional about where you put it in your body today. Where is it really going to serve you the most? Okay? What do you got, Jenny?
Oh, God. I got the love of a mom and the generations.
Beautiful. What you got?
I have the power of truthful words. I'm going to keep it in my heart.
Good. Yeah. What you got, Mary?
I have that quote, Herman's quote. If we are wounded in relationship, we must heal in relationship. And I put that in my heart.
Yeah. I got some community here, some community, old community, new community, and community that can shift. And I'm going to rub it in like lotion so it really stays in my hands. And I can reach out a little bit. What do you got?
I have intergenerational vulnerability, and I am putting it in my shoulders with a hug.
So close to what I was going to say.
Awesome.
A mother's love and vulnerability, and I'm going to put it in my belly because that's where I feel things the most.
Yeah. Lovely.
I have this magical telescope that is on my mind's eye that allows me to see the past and the future and legacy, and I'm just gonna kind of smoosh it in time.
I have unspoken words, and I want to be heard.
Wow.
I was tearful when P said she and Jenny's mother never had that conversation. So I'm so glad they did.
Yeah.
So powerful
Emotional.
today.
Yeah. Thank you all so much. Great work, everybody.
Really
Thank
beautiful
you. Great
work.
work.
See you again. Thank you.
See you next week.
See you next week.
I knew I'd cry at some point.
I do too.
Yeah, it was so good. It felt like it flowed, and felt really good to work with
Yeah.
you today.
And I wish we were in the coffee shops where we used to sit afterwards for a while and really be able to sort of take in everything. But yeah, I mean, there's so much that came up around I mean, I love the comments that the group are making around the generations
Yeah.
of Canny, but also in our generations and how the group members have shifted since the last time we've been together.
I know.
Not last week, but
No.
before.
From a long time ago.
Yeah.
And then what was here and present today,
Yeah.
we really were able to put that into the drama.
Yeah. If we were going to work next week,
Mhm.
what are some of the themes that you feel like were arising?
Being heard,
Yeah.
tough, the power versus the muck or smuck, whatever we called it.
Yep. Yeah.
Finding a way through that and looking at the balance.
Yeah.
What
yeah,
about
yeah,
you?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think this idea of that Jennifer was talking about at the end of like, and E too, about getting like power of words,
Yeah.
the power of moments, getting my words out there. This is a group of very professional people, and yet we're still there
Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah.
And that's just striking to me sometimes. So.
Mm-hmm. All right.
It's good to work with you.
So good to work with you
Okay.
again.
Okay. Well, first off, thank you so much for a beautiful performance. Thank you for sharing that with us. We are now entering the talkback portion of the evening, so we're just going to quickly introduce ourselves again. So I'm Michael Manzi. I'm a current first-year drama therapy graduate student. I use the pronouns he, him, and for accessibility purposes, I'm wearing a blue button-down paisley shirt and some gold-rimmed glasses.
Hi everyone, my name is Clara Zhang. I'm a Chinese student and I'm currently a second year at NYU Drama Therapy. For accessibility purposes, I'm wearing a black dress with a silver, I don't know how to describe this, what's the word? Jacket.
Yeah.
Okay. And I have longish hair with highlights. My pronouns are she, hers.
I'm Maria Hodomarska. I'm a faculty member in the program in drama therapy. I'm a white cis female with short gray hair, glasses. I'm wearing black. And I'm sitting next to a very dear friend.
Ditto. I'm Britton Williams, she, her. I'm a black woman wearing a black dress with a blue scarf and red glasses. My hair is in locks pulled up in a bun.
I think we've offered some accessibility statements before, so I'm just going to say again, my name's Nisha Sachnani, Program Director, and I'll just ask each of you to say your names once more before we move into this conversation.
Hi, I'm Carrie.
I'm E.
Jenny.
Jennifer.
Meredith.
Heidi.
Sammy.
Sophia.
Wonderful, thank you. So to start off, I wanted to touch back a little bit to some of the things that Britton spoke about at the beginning of the performance. I understand that there was a sort of transitional moment for the Canny model when you decided to integrate trauma-informed work. And so I'm curious if you could speak to how the program developed or changed with that integration.
Yeah, I will start if that's okay with everybody. So, as Britton so beautifully said, Canny's been around, was around for a really long time, and we worked with many, many different populations. And at some point, we were working with really anybody who wanted to work with us. There's something so beautiful about that, right? So we would work with kids, we would work with veterans, we would go to schools, we would go to hospitals, we were at Mount Sinai, we were anywhere anybody would take us. And one of the things we really noticed about the model is that it actually worked with 5-year-olds and 105-year-olds in a school, in a veterans hospital. But as we started to, as the world started to change a little bit, honestly, and to be also frank, drama therapy came to be licensed and, into a little bit more professionalized or very professionalized. We really wanted to look at what we were doing and why the model worked. At the time, there was a brilliant drama therapist who worked with us named Lucy McClellan, some of you may know. She's graduated from NYU, taught at NYU, and she had been doing some studies in trauma, and we were really looking at social and emotional learning, and she brought it, and she said, listen, we need to really think about why this model works, and we began to look at the crossovers, and what we noticed really was the prevalence of trauma. And so we really intentionally set out to get our staff very well trained in trauma for years. We worked with a man named Bob Franks. We worked with Jacob Hom. We did a little work with Bessel van der Kolk and his team a little bit. The organization really invested in making sure that their staff was trauma informed. And we really began to look at the model in a way that's like, what are we doing that is now trauma informed? And what are we doing that's not trauma informed that we need to shift and change a little bit? And as one of the things that is so beautiful, I believe, about this model is that as more people come in, it changes with the people. The basis is the same, the core principles are the same, but it was really a transformative, I think, moment for the organization. We also shifted by and this, I don't know whether this is good or bad or not or neither, no qualifier for it, but we brought our populations in a little bit. So we ended up focusing mostly on trauma-affected youth, on women affected by domestic violence, on refugees and immigrants, and veterans. And so we sort of began to focus a little bit more in that way. And by the time Canny closed, I think 60 or 70% of what the work that we did was with children and adolescents.
To continue on that thread of trauma-informed, could you give us some specific examples of the play, the performance that we just saw that was like trauma-informed that you could pinpoint?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think first and foremost, one of the things we know is that trauma is stored in the body. And so moving our bodies, starting by like really kind of like naming some feelings we were all having and then moving that into our body so that we're not just from the head up, we're bringing it all the way down, was a critical piece. I could go on, but I want to make sure everyone else can speak.
I think one of the things that we're always looking for in the Canny model is relationship. The story is important, but it's actually the container. And what's important within it is the relationship. And as we've been talking about, and you sort of brought in at the end, if trauma happens, as Judith Herman says, if trauma happens in relationship, it has to be healed in relationship. And so what we're always looking for in the Canny model is what is the relationship happening here? What are you feeling toward this person? Because we have the opportunity to experience in the body a reparative relationship there. It doesn't mean that just because I was able to talk to Carrie and have this conversation that my relationship with my grandmother will change. But there's something in my body, right? Something in my neural pathways we now know, right? When we imagine something, we can begin to not just make changes in our lives, but literally, from a neurobiological point, our minds begin, our neural pathways begin to shift and change. So we're keeping attention to body. We're adding some resourcing in now. Feel the ground, but we can come back to this. But keeping an eye towards relationship and the safety of the group, right? So we're always looking to how are you connected to the group? Reparative relationship.
So as a witness to the group, one of the things that we often talked about at Canny, we recognize that trauma, complex trauma in particular, as Heidi said, we worked a lot with folks who had experienced complex, persistent, ongoing, enduring experiences with trauma, that there are several domains of impairment. Affect regulation, behavioral control. And so in the beginning, a lot around anxiety came up or nervousness, and there was play around that. And so one of the things that trauma does is it disrupts one's capacity to tolerate feelings of anxiety in the body, and that can then result as a spillage of certain behavioral expressions. And so in playing with it and people kind of mirroring back to you, it also helps people to begin to titrate their own experiences, and I think that came up here in just the play. No one had to say, oh, we're being silly with how we're feeling. It all happened in the action. And so through that, the body is effectively and in action moving with those experiences that are felt in the body. So I think that's another way that this was a trauma-informed group.
I'm thinking about this past weekend that we've been filming. And we started with psychodrama and then went to sociodrama and then theater of the oppressed, and we end today with the Canny model. And I think anybody watching this set of 4 films is going to see a big difference with the Canny model, that there's a lot more time spent in the fiction. And there were a lot of ways throughout this group that as facilitators, you kept getting people back into the fiction. And not that it's not real, not that the feeling is not real, or that the experiences aren't. But could you talk a little bit about the value of the work in the fiction, and maybe talk a little bit about those moments where, which we could all name, where you kept bringing people back into it?
A big part of the Canny model is that it's a group, and it's really not about the two that are the main characters in the drama, because we're all having that experience together. So it's the beauty of the Canny model that it is, everybody is in these characters throughout, and that we all have these parts in us, and we're all going to jump in and reflect back to them, and also help the actors in the drama explore other roles, because that's a big part of the model as well, expanding our role repertoire. So not just playing the angry, pregnant, however we define Janine at the beginning, but letting her explore all the parts of her. So
I think, were you going to start?
No, Sammy.
You go.
Sammy.
You go.
Well, I think also the fiction allows for universality. You're able to connect with folks not only in the group, but also outside of the group, the people that you have in relationship, that you're rehearsing the relationship with others that are here, that you could then bring that to your community and your resources outside by thinking about the fiction.
I think that also for me is nobody gets lost. If there's a person that doesn't feel good enough or quiet in a group that would like to hide, you can't. And then you can build up your confidence throughout the group to speak, to voice your opinions, because you're given an opportunity and you're not shunned or laughed at. So you keep on bringing them in, so they don't fall to the back.
Can I add something to that?
Sure.
One trap, as we all know, people who lead groups, is that there's sometimes somebody who can monopolize a group.
Yeah.
And this is a really great way that everybody gets to stay in.
And to pull on your wisdom, Jennifer, from the play, the roles allow people to tell the truth.
Yeah.
Because I'm stepping into someone else, there's a bit of distance there. So that power that comes through words, I can practice it in the role without having to say that this is me, even when it is, because I'm playing that role. And that just pulls from what you offered in this space.
And I want to note a couple of things Heidi did that are very intentional before we even got into the fiction, which included, I think we made a list of when people feel powerful, not when we feel powerful. So that immediately sets a stage for distance reflection, right? And even at that moment, I think you said, I feel powerful after I work out. And Heidi said, well, after you work out. So kind of trying to generalize that a little bit more starts to build that sense that there can be the me versus not me that the group will then go into, and that provides for the containment of role and story.
We are informed by role theory for sure, right? And so this idea that when we create together, we know there's a projection there, but we're trusting the group as therapeutic agent and that the projection will happen. And it's not, as you said, somebody's individual story, but it becomes our story. And we need to pull back a little bit because, as you're mentioning, and I think you're mentioning too, that rehearsal, right? As you know, I'm a psychodramatist, and I love psychodrama, but oftentimes the spaces in which we worked at Canny or continue to work, those of us who are continuing to use this model, are not spaces where we have that time to set up that safe space. And so we know that the distance, the character allows us to explore those things in a safer way when you have 42 minutes and then the kids have to go to math, right? Which happens a lot. Or you have, we're also learning English, or we're also have nurses coming in and out of the Veterans Hospital. And so we also want to make sure that everybody is safe. And that's part of the piece of being trauma-informed too. How do we make sure that our group is safe enough? I always say I don't think we can create a safe space, but we can create a safe enough space in the time that we have.
Pulling on the thread about what makes us a trauma-informed group, and more specifically, Canny a trauma-informed model, I'm wondering if folks can speak to the co-leadership piece, which we got to witness here. Certainly for me as a former Canny staff member, that was one of the highlights, learning, which is, I think it's a skill. I mean, it's a particular skill. And I'm wondering if folks have thoughts on how that supports the group, how that complicates the experience of being in relationship throughout the group before, during, after, and why it was such a strong commitment for Canny.
We worked really hard at co-leadership. I felt like sometimes I did couples counseling with co-leaders, as a supervisor, right? But we intentionally worked toward that because we knew, we knew, we'll own it. We knew, right, that we were modeling something too, because we're talking about relationships. So there is a great opportunity to be able to model relationship, and whether that's projection of mother, father, mother, mother, father, father, whatever, we could talk to each other. We could have disagreements in front of the group, not terrible ones, but like, it's okay to say, Jenny, I didn't actually think we were going to go in that direction. Where are we going now? How are we going to do this? We would do that we would encourage everybody to do that out loud, because we're modeling relationships. We're modeling rupture and repair. We're modeling, and so it's a really important thing, but we worked hard at it. Canny paid for 30 minutes before a group and 30 minutes after a group to meet with your co-leader. And we were serious about that we were planning what we were going to do in the group, but more so we were saying, how are you today? What do you need from me today? And sometimes group leaders would say, I'm exhausted today. I can't, or, how can I show up for you? And that became really important because that, to me, trickles down into the group. Other thoughts on co-leadership?
The other thing I was just thinking about co-leadership that's so helpful too is in playing with the fiction, right? If you have a co-leader, you have this ability to kind of join the group in moments too, and to get to be a part of the fiction, and then have somebody still containing on the outside, so you don't get lost in it, and you can still hold it, which I think was always such a magical part of Canny.
Well, yeah.
Especially if you feel like, when things just go south and you just start like panicking, what are you going to do? This is not going in the direction. So one of the leaders can jump into role and help pull it out with your other leader directing you, so you can really support the group and the needs of the group. Because something that we would really talk about is that when we would check in before a group, what are the needs of this group? And that was a really important piece to always go in. And I remember Emily always saying that.
Yeah.
The needs of the group.
And I think too, what when you were talking, just the idea of candor between the two co-facilitators is also important from a trauma-informed lens, because trauma often happens behind closed doors. It's a secret. And so we would be able to model a disagreement for that rupture and repair and really do that with intention, to make space for, like, we are all included here. There's nothing that we're trying to hide from the group, more about having a challenging moment. I also think, like, I had the great privilege of initially interning at Canny. And starting out as a drama therapist, I didn't realize until afterwards how critical it is to have another person to hold with you. I think as clinicians, we go into spaces, and so often the models we're trained in expect us to hold more than a human being really should hold by themselves. And I think that knowing that there was another person who was in that space with you, who saw what happened, who witnessed what happened, could hold it with you, knows where you're at, is something that is an incredible blessing. And frankly, I think it would be well suited to bring with intention into more models and into more ways of working.
And I think it's also important for the participants to witness how the co-leaders communicate, and they realize, oh, this is not perfectly planned. It's in progress. They are supporting each other. They are communicating how to move this forward. And speaking from my experience, I don't speak perfect English. So when I do groups with Carrie, Sophia, and Heidi, or Sammy, I need help from them from time to time. So I think it's, I usually consider this as a great thing. So the dynamics could change. The participants will realize therapists are not perfect. They're human. They're like us. They need help from the group as well. So I think that's a very important piece for the co-leadership.
Yeah, and just like in any relationship, sometimes you see something and the other person has another strength, and together you come and you say, oh, I didn't see that. I'm so glad you caught it.
Takes a lot of trust.
Yeah.
You know what, can I add one more thing to that around the trauma-informed piece, is that the truth is sometimes we were going to places that were very difficult, sometimes very far away, we were traveling, and so thinking about trauma-informed as a system and thinking about the organization itself as working towards a trauma-informed organization, this was also a way that we gave, I hope, that we were giving back to therapists too, right? Because when you have to travel 2 hours to the deep depths of Brooklyn, right, from Chelsea or wherever we were located, right, that you had a partner in that too. And I think that was one of the ways that we felt cared for. I remember oftentimes there was lots of discussion about this because it costs money. It costs more money to have 2 group leaders than 1 group leader. And we were all really committed to this as important, not just for the group and for the therapists and artists.
And that is a piece from a business perspective of how I use the Candy model today. What does it mean to invest in your team, even when like it might quote unquote hit the bottom line? You invest in your team and it pays off in spades from a business perspective in terms of retention and community.
Well, I did have some thoughts and comments around the trauma-informed piece, but I feel like you've really spoken to key features of this model that you would identify as being trauma-informed, and so much of what you've said, I mean, it was a beautiful scene, and I was thinking about it also from the perspective of generations through NYU and generations within Canny, and a strong feminist leaning also that seemed to be, it was very present in the way that this story unfolded, in my mind. You know, a subsection of current approaches in drama therapy can be understood as trauma-informed approaches, as you know, and some orient themselves to being trauma-centered and some trauma-informed, and the differences tend to be around orientation to how directly trauma is referred to, what happened is referred to, and to what degree is the body involved, and our orientation to safety. Those tend to be different across models that understand themselves as having something to say to trauma, something to do with trauma. And I feel like you've really spoken to well. We need to transparently negotiate relationship, focus in on connection. It's a group model. You're staying within dramatic metaphor, and through that dramatic metaphor, working out a lot of the details that pertain to real life. And I wondered I do have maybe one question connected to the trauma-informed piece, and then I wanted to touch on something Meredith had just said around how this work lives in you now, and how you've carried it forward today in whatever way you're doing in the different settings you're in. And that question really is what information you had about the histories of the people that you're working with before you go in, because you come into schools and veteran populations. You mentioned many different settings, all of which may offer different opportunities to have a bit of a history. And from what we saw here, that history isn't necessarily named. Can you speak a bit to that? Yeah.
I have a response to that. Something I remember very clearly about, I think I started with Canny in 1998, something like that. And we would go around and go room to room in the Michael ward at Mount Sinai. And I remember being told, like, the history doesn't matter. You don't want necessarily the history before you get in the room, because you want the participants in the group to be able to show up however they are without my preconceived ideas of who they are and what they need and what their diagnosis is. So I'm not sure if that's really what you're asking, but that is part of what came to my mind as part of my training, was that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
I think that was an important piece of being able to sort of work with who's in the room. And I think the reason we sort of worked with the theme of this present model, this present moment, is because of that. And I also think that we shifted a little bit to the extent in which we could. Because Canny went in and out of places, we didn't run any groups at our site. I think we went to, at some point, 20 different sites a week. We often didn't have, we didn't have access to charts necessarily. I think there was, as some people did in some places, right? But what we began to incorporate was making sure, again, with this idea of relationship, and really how does this look in a larger framework? Who do we meet with at the site every week to check in, to give us a little history. And again, there were some places we got a lot of history, and there were some places we got very little. But we would always check in with somebody, and then we would always check out with that person because we were not the continuing person, right? But I think the other piece there is, and we started at CANI also to do a lot of trainings in trauma and in creating, spaces and using therapeutic drama techniques for people. And people would always say, well, what happens if someone hasn't had trauma and they're in the room? And I would always say, nobody's ever been hurt by coming from a trauma-informed perspective. And we can sort of assume, I know it's not good to make assumptions, but we can kind of assume in a trauma framework that most of the people that we come in contact with have experienced some sort of trauma, if not everybody. And that includes clinicians and staff workers and the person who is at the desk when you walk into a school. And so we may not have gotten all the charts. And although, to your next question that you're coming to, that's changed probably for many of us where we really do. But at the time, it's that human-to-human connection that Jenny's talking about.
I just want to add quickly to this question because I really love it, because I think, as I noted in the intro, CANI was known for working in spaces where people might not want to be in group. And part of that was because we didn't need to know exactly what happened to someone to be able to recognize that what I am witnessing before me, if I only label it as behavior detached from an experience, I perhaps contribute or participate in continuing the harm or trauma or relational rupture that someone experiences. CANI was really great at being, my students, I always tell them, my jam has become walking into a room. How many rooms have I walked in where people are like, oh, this CANI group, fuck this group, I don't want to do CANI, and our response is, I know, how horrible is this? What's the worst thing? To be able to play with it, because to recognize that, as Sandra Bloom would tell us, it's not just the individuals that are traumatized, it's the systems that they're in, that rebuke that we get in the room is speaking something, and that thing that is speaking is something that we can play with. And so I think that is actually one of the most beautiful things that was really a rooted belief in trauma, in CANI, that we can recognize the presence of trauma is expansive. It looks like a lot of things, and just because we see something in the room that may be challenging does not mean that we need to sever the experience or the person from the room. It means we need to be curious and wonder, how can I engage this moment differently so? And I don't actually need to know where you just came from or what exactly happened to you to be able to say there may be a different way that I can respond to this moment. Because that moment that someone is like, I hate this group, and you're like, I know, it's the worst. What is the thing you hate the most? There's also, in the play of that moment, you see people oftentimes go like, wait, are you serious? Yeah. What do you hate most about this group? I can really say it? Yes. Right? And that that shifts something too. Wait, you're listening, which was in this piece today. You're going to listen to this narrative. You can be pissed and you can hit the table, but you can't flip the table because we got to be safe in group.
Right.
So I can accept your rage in the space. I can welcome your rage, but we have to be safe. This is another way that we help people to titrate something. You don't leave the group because you are experiencing a trauma response, but we do have to negotiate the space in a way so that we can be here even when something is swelled. And I believe that is something that really speaks to that intermediate space where we have some knowledge but not all knowledge, but we don't need all of the knowledge to be able to have at least a root of something to understand how to respond otherwise to these moments.
Can I add one more thing? Because it's not going to be nearly as astute or articulated well. However, you reminded me that when we used to go into these spaces, into schools or hospitals, there would be a staff person or a teacher that would come in, and this teacher was just done with this group of these kids that would never listen, and they would watch us work, and they would not only we'd get to model a new way of being with this group, but they would get to learn more about the students or the patients, because we were tapping into something different, and they got some fresh eyes about it, and that was always really satisfying. You don't have to yell at them all the time.
Yeah, I'm also really struck by time and how much time you have in the groups you're working, because I come from a different orientation around trauma, which is you do need to have the history in order to link the behavior to experience, in order to link the past to the present, in order to really root what you're seeing in the things that have happened to a person. But it requires working over time. And in the spaces that you've been working in, it hasn't always been the case. You show up, you don't know how long you might have. You have the length of a contract with the school, right? And that might be 4 months, it might be
By the
3
time we
weeks,
ended,
it
we
might
actually,
be-
again, going trauma-informed, we, a little bit, to the best of our ability, we didn't, and this was not true at the beginning, but near the end, we were not taking contracts less than 12 weeks.
Right.
So that we could at least
you
have a little bit of
time with folks. But the thing that I'm hearing too is that, listen, all of us suffer and all of us need to connect.
Yep.
All of us suffer and we need to connect to ourselves and connect to each other, and that is a reparative force, and that the way that we've witnessed this work unfold today, you can really see that strength flourish. You can see that possibility of connection really be encouraged. I want to pass this back down because I think we might have time for a couple of comments or questions from the audience.
I wondered if you could just talk more about working with participants who are disassociated or choose conflict, because what we saw was people who kept choosing connection.
Yeah.
But I would imagine that that's a rarity. I imagine you have people who keep saying no, and just how you negotiate that.
Yeah.
Britton was sort of speaking, one of the things that you didn't see today is that one of the things that we pride ourselves on is being able to work with quote-unquote resistance. I don't love the word, but we work with it, right? And so we talked about whether we should pretend we were resistant today, and we decided that that really wouldn't be this present moment. And so there was resistance that showed up in different ways. But as Britton was talking about, that's a piece that we work with a lot. And so we're constantly helping to sort of facilitate, well, if you could say something, what would it be? And if you can't, okay, that's fine too, right? But we're holding that space and we're working with the, we might create a scene about people who don't want to be in together. So you don't want to be in this group. What are other places that people don't want to be in? And we might work from that place. There have been many moments, I think, especially when you trust your co-leader, and that's a big piece of it. Meredith and I ran a lot of groups where kids, as Britton would say like, oh my God, this is the worst group we have. And they had like groups every day, and the ability for us to trust each other and jump in and go like, really? This is your worst group?
Wait, no, can we be worse?
Whoa, wait.
Oh my God.
We are like the worst group you have ever had. Amazing.
We want the award. Give us the award for worst.
And they did, and they handed us an award, right? Like, you guys are the worst group leaders that we've ever met in your entire life.
And we don't like what you're wearing, and we don't like how you talk, and everything about you.
Yeah. And we go with that, but then they're doing it. Right? And then some kid is going, well, wait a minute, I want to present the award. And some kid is going, wait, let me roll out the red carpet. And some kid is going, let me, film it, or let me create it, and so now we're working with it. And then you can change that to like, well, we won an award, what would you win an award for? Basketball. And so this thing that Britton's talking about is so important. That's the present moment. Whatever's in the room is okay. They have been told many times, especially because we worked in so many schools, like, don't say that. That's not okay. That's rude, whatever. What if I close the door and it's not right now?
What about, because I think I heard you say also working with clients who are dissociated and really, really like in the hospital, in the psych ward, and there was a magic that would happen with those clients, because that was that and domestic violence were two of my main populations. There would be a moment where someone was on so much medication, and once like a guy actually came and peed in the middle of in the group, and we were able to just go on, and some came in and cleaned it up, and then he was present. He was completely out of it, and then he was present. I can't say the magic, what it was.
I think sometimes role is containing,
It's
right? So we're building the role so the model here is how we build the role, how we build the scaffold, how we create those characters. And to be completely honest, I didn't do it as well as I should have done. I missed some steps there in my own nervousness. But there's how you could have a kid who's like, okay, so you're playing a bus driver. And today the bus driver is what? He's calm, in control, and powerful, right? And so Like I'm a calm and controlled bus driver, and all of a sudden something happens, or the bell rings outside, and I'm like, oh, and I'm like, oh, whatever it is, right? I'm like, hold on, wait, remember you're a calm and controlled bus driver. Oh, right. So the role becomes containing, and sometimes, as Jenny's talking about, you can say like, so yeah, Meredith's dissociated right now, but what if you were playing a bus driver today who was excited, right? She may not be able to do it, but we're going to give her the option, and we're going to support in any way that we can.
And we're going to, this is the whole group, right? So like we will just also welcome someone where they are. And this is invitational work. So we will continue to invite them, but we will never force somebody to participate. And in addition to that, because we go into other people's spaces, right? Whether it's the school or the shelter or the hospital or wherever, we also know that so much of the time they're not in control, right? That they've been forced to come to this group, that they don't have a lot of agency. And so one of the things we would do in working with this idea of resistance, which Britton, you would always say, resistant to what, right? Like, exactly. We would be like, well, of course they don't want to be here. Of course not. And then also work to say things like, well, if you were in charge of school, what would you do? Right? And start to invite them to imagine that idea of having power and control. And that's where that rehearsal gets to take place. Where, oh, wait a second, actually, like something is alive in me, and I may not have it here, but where can I rehearse this now so I can bring that into the rest of my life when I have opportunity? And it might be here in the small places I can make a choice.
Also, I think something that's really important is week by week with time, we're looking for the micro moments. So what might look like resistance to somebody else, there's something really important when we change into character, change one thing about your body. Mm-hmm. And so if there is a client that is in the room that has never moved before, maybe they move their chair just a little bit, and that's them participating that day.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Sometimes somebody will just be the 3-2-1 action person. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's the only role for today.
Or the audience member.
Yep.
I just am curious how you guys are bringing the CANI model into whatever you guys do now. And then is there a way for those of us who are not trained in said model to sort of bring it into our lives and our day-to-day? I'm speaking, as Meredith knows, I'm a journalist, and I'm so interested in this because I'm constantly in this sort of role and not, trying to play that dance. So this was very fascinating to me. Thank you guys. It was a beautiful performance.
What are you guys doing? How are you using the model?
So many ways. I worked in schools for a while. I'm now in private practice, but I still, many of the principles of CANI live within me in everything I do. But I think particularly thinking about in schools, that was really helpful. One thing is we didn't really model this today because we were filming, but the CANI Circle, I worked for an organization after CANI that they were just like, do the group with the people on the desks. And I was like, no, we are going to have a circle. And we would spend time moving the desks around, but it was really important so we could all be seen. Also, anybody that's in the room is a part of the group. That's a really important CANI principle that we always, teachers that might be grading, I would always be like, hey, let's do a check-in. Do you want to play Zip Zap Zap? Just inviting people to be a part of the space. That's just the way I run every group and the way I think about therapy in general, that whatever is here, whoever is here, is also in the space with us. I could go on, and I'm going to pass it on. Do you want to say how you use?
I'm not currently working clinically, so I'm going to pass on. I'm good with it. I am a social worker in New Jersey, and I also work at Memorial Sloan Kettering, and I've been there for about 21 years, so a lot of crossover when I was working at CANI, but I was there using the CANI model, doing therapeutic theater with pediatric patients and caregivers. And during COVID, I had to pivot to online groups doing this work with people with cancer and some who don't speak and some who only use the chat. And it has been incredibly challenging, but what I've found in always going back to the CANI model is allowing people to show up as they are, and just what you said, changing your body a little bit is enough to get somebody hooked in. And especially with that population, being able to step out of your role of a cancer patient
and just take on some new roles. So that's one way that I use it.
There's so many ways that I use it. I use it in a mishmash of things. The number one thing I use is the I am poem, and then I'll transfer to what inspires you. An I am poem is I am, let's say, an animal. I am a flower. I am, and it's a way for the clients to understand I'm listening to them, because I'll take different pieces and then present it back to know that I've heard every single person, and I'll look at them when I say it so that they know that I'm invested in them. The warm-ups, the beginning with, if you were a candy bar, what candy bar would you be? If you were the weather, what weather would you be? So that I could do the check-in so I know where people are emotionally when they walk in. And for people that are new to a group, they put their foot in already. They've already had a chance to speak, so they become less afraid to speak in the group because they've done it already with me. And we're like, oh, okay, very good. And we keep on moving around. The resistance, okay, as long as you're in the room, sit in the corner. I get a lot of pushback from certain facilities because they're like, he's sitting in the corner, he's not doing anything. And I'm like, he's doing everything. Just leave him in the corner. And he looks like he's sleeping, and that's okay. I'll check in. He's just building trust. And it may take 2 or 3 weeks, but next thing you know, from the lying down position, they're like, no, but that's not how it goes, and he needs to move here. And then you're like, well, then show me. And then, builds up from there. But I stick to my guns. There's many ways. I'm just naming a couple.
So potent.
Yeah.
So much. While I do have a very small private practice and I do supervise students, I think that the application I'm really curious about right now and continuing to explore is the organizational kind of model. And as somebody who has the great privilege of being in a leadership position in organizations, looking at the backbone of how an organization functions and always centering relationship. So group as therapeutic agent is the young people we serve. So making sure that their insight is supporting, just like Canny did, building the model, and then looking at the team as a whole, the people who work within the organization, also as the therapeutic agent. So bringing in their ideas, ensuring that yes, hierarchical things need to exist in some places, but that the spirit of the work is done in a circle. Whether that's in like a board meeting room or a Zoom meeting room or one-to-one. I think that that is something I'm really interested in, and I want to emphasize too that something I really learned from Canny is that, as a dollar sign and a bottom line, what does it mean to invest in those people, as I mentioned before? And I truly believe that the people are the most, they're the resource I center the most in business practice. And so that can have a dollar sign attached to it, and I will defend it to my dying day.
The Canny model lives in my body, and it is in everything I do is informed by it. My private practice, my consulting, my teaching, it's a model that works. And so I have been very privileged to be able to actually continue some of the actual Canny groups. They're no longer called Canny because we can't do that, but they're, at some of the sites. So I'm continuing to do that, and so thinking a lot about how we continue to move this work forward because it's important.
I think, tell the story about the Learning Collaborative and going back and how they're still using it.
The Learning Collaborative, as Britton mentioned, we trained many different clinicians in Connecticut, and about in the middle of the pandemic, I got a call from one of an agency in Connecticut. There were 2 people who were new clinicians at the time who went through the 2-year training, so the sustainability, who are now leaders and admin in the organization, and said, this is the thing that changed our organization, but we've had complete turnover. Come back and can you do this again? And when I walked into the room, took the train to Connecticut, I walked into the room on the board. I mean, these are all mental health counselors, and so they're not drama therapists, but all of the Canny things that we taught them was on the board, and they have passed them on, okay-ish. It's time for some refreshers, but it lives on, so it's living on in many different ways. So that's been exciting to go back and re-engage with that work and re-engage with those 2 who are now in an admin thing saying, this really helped, and they've got all new young staff clinicians who are so scared of their bodies. And so I go up monthly and work with them.
I use Canny a lot with where I am. Right now I work at counseling in schools at an elementary school in Coney Island. And she is like squirming in her seat right now, but that's my co-facilitator over there. Hi, Marissa. The main way that I do bring Canny to my work is I have an excellent co-facilitator and co-counselor and partner. And it's been essential for us in how we run our groups now in that school.
So I work at Bellevue Hospital in forensic psychiatry and acute care. I also work in private practice, and I probably bring some of this at home with my kids when I can. And if I was going to tell somebody, like, what's something you could take from any of these groups and probably put into anything you do, is something that lives in my head, comes from Heidi Landis, and I put into all my groups, is we didn't explicitly say, but when we play games and things, there's no outs. But we do build like this sense of anxiety and things like that. And something you'll hear Heidi say over and over and over again, and now I say over and over again, is take a breath and start over. And that's something I probably say in every group, no matter where we are. If we don't get through all the steps, that's okay. We're going to take a breath and we're going to start over. And yeah, I think that informs my personal work as well.
That's wonderful. Thank you all so much for sharing. I think especially in the context that this video will be viewed by future clinicians, it's a wonderful piece to end on. I think we are out of time. So thank you all for being here, for sharing this performance. Thank you everyone for attending. Thank you. Yes. Thank you.